In Brazil alone, 54,000 tons of plastic motor oil packaging are discarded every year. Those containers still hold some residual oil that have catastrophic implications for our water, air, and the atmosphere. For instance, just 1 liter of leftover oil can pollute up to 1 million liters of water. In today's preview, we answer the question, how do we decontaminate plastic without polluting water? This is Preview of Tomorrow. I'm your host, Mike Lake, and today I'm talking with Felipe Cardoso of Eco Panplas.
Innovation, resiliency, discovery. Join Mike Lake, President and CEO of Leading Cities, as we explore the technologies shaping the possibilities of our future with a preview of tomorrow.
Hello and welcome, Felipe. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, of course, I want to welcome all of our listeners and viewers of Preview of Tomorrow. Today, I'm really thrilled to introduce you to Felipe Cardoso. He is the CEO and founder of Eco Panplas, a company that recycles contaminated plastic oil packaging. We've all used those little plastic bottles to top off our oil. That's what we're talking about. And he does it without using water and without producing any waste. Now, Felipe, before we get into just why is this important and what is it that you're doing, tell us a little bit about yourself and how this became a passion of yours.
Hello, Michael. Thank you very much for the invitation and this opportunity to talk with you. I appreciate that. So my name is Felipe Cardoso. I'm CEO and founder of Eco Panplas, how you said, and graduated in business administration. I worked for multinational companies such as Tetra Pak, Parmalat, and had a previous business in the post-plastic waste recycling industry for almost 3 years. But that didn't work out because the industries are increasingly reducing and reusing their waste internally. However, with the experience and learning in this market, combined with my desire to develop a business with purpose and impact, I decided to try again. So I started to research about new recycling technologies in Brazil and around the world in 2013. But what has always existed was a conventional model of plastic recycling, which is grinding of plastic waste, washing with water and detergent, transformation into recycled plastic raw material in order to manufacture new products. At that moment, I went to a machine manufacturer to buy a washing machine production line for plastic recycling. And at the second meeting to close the deal, it was when he presented for me the idea that would become an innovation project originating Eco Panplas in 2014. With initially a goal to solve the problems in the lubricate oil packaging recycle chain and being this new global concept in the area of plastic recycling, without using water, without producing waste, contributing to solve some big environmental problems that we have today, climate change, plastic pollution, and preservation of the resources, especially the water resources. So my dream, my motivation, and my purpose since the beginning is to leave this legacy, giving the society this new concept and way of recycling and circular economy, which preserves the life of people and the planet.
So, you've touched on two major issues facing all of humanity, and we've covered both of these issues quite a bit with Preview of Tomorrow. One is the amount of plastic that we have created and the fact that every bit of it still exists and it's doing tremendous damage to our environment, especially looking at our oceans. And listeners will have heard me say in the past that in just a few short years here, scientists are projecting that we may have more plastic in the ocean than fish. So plastic and the recycling of plastic is a huge challenge for us to be tackling. But water contamination is another one. And listeners will also have heard me talk about the fact that In the entire planet, we only have about 1% of our water being drinkable. So the idea that we could be contaminating that water is a real threat to all of humanity. And now, if I understand, I know you're in Brazil. And so looking at Brazil alone, there's something like 54,000 tons of plastic motor oil packaging that's discarded every year. And yes, we all want to get every last drop out of those little bottles to top off our engines. But the reality is there is that residual amount that clings to the side of the plastic. When you put the top back on, you toss it in the recycling bin, and it sits there. And that little bit adds up. Give me a sense. How much residual oil is left in these containers when we throw them out?
Yes, 3% of residual oil, even after draining those bottles. So it means 2 million liters of residual oil that go to the environment. A relevant amount because just 1 liter of oil can pollute 1 million liters of water. So for this plastic waste to be effectively recycled and transformed to a new product, it must first be decontaminated. It's not one we're talking about only the plastic pollutions, but the contamination of the oil, the residual of contaminations. So that is this recycling that is cleaned completely. Worldwide, cleaning has meant decontamination by wash with water. However, that solution does not work for a large portion of contaminated plastics. Imagine, Michael, that you get your hands dirty while working with motor oil. Water will not be enough to get the oil off, so you use detergent to remove a little more. However, your hands will still be dirty, and the water you used will be contaminated with oil. In addition to that, the detergent you used will be mixed with oil, and the two together become hazardous waste. So this is what happens when water used for decontamination, recycling, lubricant oil packaging. It creates two major problems. First, even using detergents, it's not possible to remove the oil from plastic, generating a low quality recycled raw material, decreasing its application and value. And second, this water with oil has to be treated. This is a contaminated effluent. And during this process, each liter of oil turns into up 8 pounds of hazardous waste, generating a high cost and environmental risk.
And what does happen with that hazardous waste?
Unfortunately, go to the environment because it has a huge cost to treat this effluent. And even after you treat it, you have to make the right destination of the waste, the oil with the products that you used for the water treatment.
And when I started, I focused on Brazil, but the reality is I don't want to give our listeners an impression that Brazil is in some way a large offender, let's say, on this. How do other countries compare in terms of the amount of lubricating oil that's discarded every year?
So I know we have participated of some international programs, and we know that in United States the volume of this material is 5 times more than Brazil. And we talked with some players there, and they have the same problem and go to landfills, for example.
Wow. So I could go on and on about the issue because, as I said, you're tackling two massive issues, and both are issues that we at Leading Cities care deeply about. But I do want to focus on what you're doing at Eco Panplas. So explain to us the process and the benefit of what you're doing and the innovation you've created.
Okay. Well, first, talking about a little bit the company, our solution in general, and after I will enter more specific in the technical process. So Eco Panplas, how you said, is an innovative startup industry of contaminated plastic packaging recycling. We have developed an innovative production system composed of equipment and process patent that performs this decontamination recycling of lubricate packaging in an ecological way, without using water, without regeneration, with 30% cost than the process used with water. And more than that, the two main important things that all residual oil is recovered and sold for the production of new oil, eliminating the environmental risk. And the result is a recycled raw material of excellent quality that we sell for the production of new oil bottles, 100% made of our recycled plastic, and with 10% cost reduction, thus creating a true circular economy. So in our business model, we buy the packaging from environmental companies that collect from gas stations, workshops, and dealerships, because this is a hazardous waste, carry out a reprocess, and sell the recovered oil to the oil industry and the recycled plastic to the packaging industry. So this is really a unique and disruptive technology because it's a green patent of this kind in this world, already with technical, environmental, economic, and financial feasibility proven. It was a long way to do that, almost three years. So, and it's important to say also that all those results were only possible due to our team. Gustavo and I take care of management with great experience in the plastic industry, and Fabian, our chemical engineer, and Evandro, our mechanical engineer, manage the technical area.
So, can you explain one question, I guess, before we get into the technical side? But you talked about how you source these materials at the beginning of your process. What would have been the alternative if you're not taking those bottles? Where would they have gone?
They go to only 9% recycled today here in Brazil. So they go to co-processing that burn that material. But in this process, you are not recovering the inputs, the plastic, the oil, and the label. So you are losing raw material, and go also you are not generating value, environmental, social, and economic value in this process. And go, unfortunately, are discarded in a wrong way. Go to the landfills and so pollute our soils and water, unfortunately.
And I do want to highlight for our listeners the fact that one of the key points of what you've done is to create a higher quality recycled plastic that is free of that contaminated oil, or that oil that would have contaminated the plastic itself. Is that a fair summation?
Yes. I think our process is better and different because we generate environmental, economic, and social value. Environmental, because there's no use of water, no residuals, no contaminated effluent generated. I don't know if you know that, but today 80% the effluent is released to the environment with no type of treatment. In addition, it recovers all the contaminant oil that becomes a byproduct. Economically speaking, economic value because it's an efficient recycling that allows the valuation of the plastic that becomes packaged again. Now with the water, you can't do that because you don't remove the oil from the plastic. And because of this valuation on social side, we can pay a higher value for the waste pickers and in our supply chain. So, and when you try to recycle this material of water, you get worse the problem because this process, they do not deliver a high quality resin, they do not recover the oil, and generate more waste with high costs and environmental risk.
So I can't believe our time is almost up. I'm actually shocked because there's so many questions I still have. But I do want to focus on the overall impact and ask you to think out to the future and imagine a world where Eco Panplas is collecting and transforming every bit of these waste materials What does that mean? What does it mean for our society? What does it mean for our planet?
So I think we are very tired of plastic packaging and oil contamination of our rivers, soils, affecting air quality, water supply systems, and human health. Our solution contributes to preserve our resources, especially water resources. Water resource, the second most essential element of human life after the air. Sometimes we forget about it. So water should be preserved and used for human basic necessities. We think in that way. What necessity, basic necessity, where we are talking about? Drinking, taking shower, and cooking. So in our recycling system, all the inputs are recovered, the oil, plastic, and label, and sold with excellent quality, creating a circular economy with no environmental risk. So we are very happy so far because the solution, the business is already validated, recognized, and with a highly visibility in the national market and beginning the international market also as a global solution. But when we settle in several countries with several production units and process high volumes and generate a huge positive impact, we will know that we have reached the maximum impact and success.
Well, Felipe, I just can't thank you enough for the work you're doing. I think this is an issue that is so overlooked because I think, we do take for granted the fact that when we toss that bottle into the recycling bin, we think we've done something good. But it's not as good as it could be, and it's gotten a lot better because of what you have created at Eco Panplas. So thank you for your passion on this subject and for tackling it for all of us. And I also want to thank you, of course, for joining us on Preview of Tomorrow to share this with our listeners and our viewers. So for any of those folks who have tuned in, who want to understand better what you're doing or perhaps get in contact with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can send me an email. It's felipe@ecopanplas.com.br. That's correct to say?
Yep, that's perfect. Well, listen, Felipe, thank you so much. And we look forward to working with you and seeing your continued success moving forward.
Thank you so much, Michael, for the opportunity. And I'm very happy to talk with you today.
And thank you for tuning in to this episode of Preview of Tomorrow. Listeners like you are essential to advancing our efforts to drive resiliency and sustainability for all. I ask that you give us a rating on Apple Podcasts or whichever streaming platform you prefer. Your feedback helps us to grow and share these brief previews of what life in the future can be. In addition to thanking our guest today, I want to thank Peter Roy and Demetria Bridges for making this podcast possible. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe and encourage others to also join us each week in previewing the possibilities of tomorrow.
Preview of Tomorrow is brought to you by Leading Cities, a global nonprofit driving resilience and sustainability for all by unleashing the potential of the world's cities. Join them at leadingcities.org.